First of all, there's things, like the laugh. When I recorded the laugh, I was like, that's how the character would laugh. He's a bit insane. And then it became a thing that people really liked. I was like, oh, I never expected that.
When you were recording this, did you take any inspirations from any other media, whether it's movies, TV shows, other characters?
It was kind of a mix of Samantha from Sex and the City and Hannibal Lecter. Maybe it doesn't make sense. It's not a literal mix, but in certain ways you can hear it.
You also played Menolias in Prince of Persia Lost Ground, and you are a Prince of Persia fan.
Prince of Persia was probably my favorite game when I was a teenager. And so then to get to be a voice in that franchise was it just touches immediately on those like little fibers of your childhood. There are things that you're really good at, and there are things that you're not as good as other people at, and it's okay, because you could be great at the things that you're good at, as opposed to trying to be sort of average in everything.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Voice. I'm joined by Shai Matheson, who has played a number of characters, including Scar from Wuthering Waves, Menolias in Prince of Persia Lost Ground, and a plethora of characters. You played so many. Thank you so much for joining in this podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. This is really cool.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I mean, as I said, you've played in so many wonderful games and so many different characters, and you continue to do a lot of work. Like, obviously, every year you have a number of things to work on. So this year, how has it been for you, 2024, 8 months or 9 months now in?
Yeah, 2024 is a funny year. I think we're all me and my colleagues I'm not a royal we. It's a strange year. Everything's a little bit unsure, and like work comes in, goes away. It's a little bit unsure. So actually 2024 is a very strange year. But the things that get released are never in accordance to what you do. Some games I've recorded 2 or 3 years ago haven't come out yet. I think Wuthering Waves, I finished this year and came out sort of straight away, so you never know. Like Lies of P, I think, came out about 2 months after I recorded it. It's very strange, and sometimes it's years in the making, so it's all very random.
Wow.
Everyone always thinks, oh, you work so much because everything gets released at the same time, but actually it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's insane to see how crazy the release schedule is, I guess, or the work times are, because you work on the project and then it comes out whenever. You have no idea when it's coming out, and then eventually it comes out, you get to know about it, and then you share it. But it feels like, oh, I remember Lies of P came out, and a number of games came out, and he had like posts after posts, like, I'm in this game, I'm also in this game the next day. But that's not exactly how you worked on.
It's true. It's weird. Yeah, I think it was around that time. I think it was Lies of P, it was Final Fantasy 16. There was something else that came around the same time. Yeah, but that's so not indicative. It's just like the luck of timing and scheduling, and you never know. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Also, it's so like a lot of things. I think Alan Wake came out at the same time.
Right.
But I did Alan Wake so much earlier on, and I barely remembered even what I did or that it's come. Like it just is very strange.
Yeah.
But very lucky that I get to work, and I'm very fortunate. So yeah, that's all good.
It's lovely. It's lovely that you get to work on these games. It's always like, nowadays, it's kind of like a dream for a lot of people, like especially with video games insanely on the rise with all these, scenes and characters and all that stuff. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go into the voice acting industry and, try my luck there. And, it's really cool how many people have an interest growing onto this career now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever done games?
No,
Are you into that? Or you do this full time?
After doing, as I was doing this a lot, even last year, I thought like, maybe I should give it a go, because I was like, I really get interested in characters. And I remember just like walking by in my house. I do that all the time when I'm thinking. I would just walk and I would think, and sometimes I would just, my thought would divert into a video game, and usually it's Last of Us for some reason.
Sure.
And I would just go and pick one scene, and I would be in my head doing that scene. I'm like, what am I doing? And so I thought of doing it, but I was way too afraid to even take that one first step.
When games didn't have a lot of voice acting, would you read out the lines out loud?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think so I'd read it out loud. I think I would always read it in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm one of those guys who's not a silent reader, I guess you can say. But yeah, I would just kind of try to make some different voices. Yeah. Especially if it's a female voice, I'm like, I'm gonna try that, and then it sounds wrong. I'm like, I'm gonna stop now.
That's more exciting. Yeah.
It's always exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I only do it out loud when I get paid. I'm joking.
Makes sense. Well,
Yeah, sure.
I gotta say, recently you were in Alex Jordan's place, I believe so, with Karina James doing
Yeah.
a live signing, Wuthering Waves.
Yeah.
How was that? All of you guys together doing signing?
It was great. It was so much fun. We had such fun. Like we didn't know what to expect because I think it was our first time doing like a group signing like that. I think Karina and James had already done a signing online, but for me and Alex, it was the first time doing this as a group. It was great. I've known Alex for years. This is the funny thing. It's how these games work and the casts. Sometimes you find out after a game's come out who's in the game, who's in the cast, and you go, "Oh my god, I never realized." And I've known Alex for years and years and years. James, I got to know recently through like these events that we sometimes go to, and then I'd known James was in the game because he was announced first, I think. So we became friendly. I was like, "Oh, I'm in this game as well," secretly. And yeah, and Karina I'd known through a Final Fantasy event that we'd done before, and yeah, so it's such a weird thing, and we then all, converge. Is that even a word? Into this one thing and do the signing together. Yeah, it's great. We had such fun, and it's so nice. Like the fans are so great. Everyone was up for it. We had such a nice time. I hope. Did you watch it?
I did tune in. I remember you were saying at that time you were going to sign a poster, and you said, "Can anybody say a line in the chat? I'm going to write that down." And I think you were looking for someone saying some line from the game, and you were going to write that down. I was looking at like a lot of lines came in. I'm like, what is he gonna pick? So yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, true. I just get like rabbit in the headlights when someone says, "Come up with a thing." I'm like, oh my god, never! I could never do it. So I wanted someone else to fix the problem for me.
Oh man, yeah,
like a human chat GPT.
like human ChatGPT. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's lovely to see because the chat is going so much. There's so many, messages coming along, and then you interact, and then you're signing. It's just the best deal. I love seeing.
Yeah,
that.
I think we really tried to make it fun. Obviously, it's it's in a way it's like a commercial endeavor, but also a chance to engage with fans. So you really do want to make it fun and entertaining and engaging for everyone watching, as well as doing the technical business of signing, which I was very sort of OCD about. I had gloves to protect the prints. Like I took it very seriously. So you try, and then. I mean, this is so boring. This is literally arts and crafts, but I was like trying to fit the inscription in with my signature and everything. Like it was, I think by the end, I may have got the hang of it.
Wow!
So apologies to anyone who got the first print.
Now that you've done,
can we curse on this? I just want to make sure.
Go for it.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I will. I will.
Freedom.
Me,
the freedom is there.
Yeah.
I would say, like, now that you have done streamily sign-ins, if anybody comes by and does it for the first time, do you have any tips for them on how to really sign, to really protect?
100%. First of all, don't print gloss. Print matte.
Yes.
I made the mistake of printing gloss, so that's one mistake. Gold and silver pens are better than black because it shows better. But also, I had a really dark gold, and so I was really stuck for some of them. So yeah, make sure to get quite shiny, bright gold. That's a tip for anyone out there looking for gold. And yeah, this is very niche, but yeah, I'd say don't print matte, not gloss, and maybe be scrimpy on the space when you start out.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out. I need to ask a lot of people whether people mind you signing over the art, like over some of the image, or if they want it sort of fitting to the side. I need to figure this out.
Yeah, I think so. I think their preferences.
I'm learning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is really niche. yeah.
For sure.
But one day I'll get there.
Absolutely. I mean, there's more signings to do. It's gonna get even better. But I have to say, as you mentioned, like the community is so strong. With specifically Wuthering Waves, I would say, what is it like for you to be a part of this community now, engaging with all these people?
It's great. Like you really do. I mean, the internet is a blessing and a curse, but it is a blessing where you get to engage with these people from all over the world that love the game, love your character, love your work. So it's really exciting. I mean, obviously the work that we do, no one's going to know me walking down the street, but people know from the games that they love or the voice. And so it's the only really option to interact with people who are passionate about it, people who appreciate what you've done. Yeah, I love it. It's so great. And also, I think what happens a lot of times when we make the games, oftentimes as the actors, we don't really know, unless you're like the main character in a game where the character goes throughout the whole game. You don't often know how things fit into place, how your character is perceived, what happens in the game, obviously plot wise, but just generally the vibe, because it's so disjointed when you record it. So oftentimes, and I'd say Scar was really big like that, Scar from Wuthering Waves, you find out the character after it's out and after you see people react to it.
Yeah.
Because I really had no idea what it's going to come out as. And you suddenly discover the characters through the people who engage with it. So that's really special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really special. And even more, as you mentioned, like people see, you see those reactions, you see how cool it is, and then even it goes even better. They take it off up a notch and like make fan arts, and it looks so damn good. And they share it. I'm like, where are these artistic people coming out? I can draw a line. Maybe.
I mean, it's insane. Like when I was, first of all, there's things, like the laugh. I had no idea people liked the laugh. Like when I recorded the laugh, I was like, that's how the character would laugh. He's a bit insane. So I just did the laugh, and then it became a thing that people really liked. I was like, wow, I never expected that. But yeah, the art is amazing. There's such talented people out there. It was so nice when we were looking for artwork for the Prince, for Streamily and all that. You start scrolling and trolling through fan art. It's such amazing talent out there. Obviously, a lot of very, very naughty art out there. You know who you are, which is nice and interesting. But yeah, amazing. They're all so good.
Oh yes,
and you realize how people perceive the character, or how people see it.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's lovely to see all these design. As you mentioned, some of them are naughty, and it's always going to be there. It's just the people's imagination are absolutely wild. And yes, I've seen a lot of Reddit posts. They are wild too. So it's really incredible to see.
For sure.
Yeah,
especially as there was this situation with Scar's outfit that got changed, and that created a lot of very interesting art out there. So that was fun. It still is fun. It keeps going back. I love it.
I believe there are questions out there about like why and it should be there. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm just the voice.
You're just the voice.
I'm not in charge of the foods.
Exactly. Oh my god. When you mentioned that you found out about like the attention that this character is getting through these people, what was the initial kind of like reaction when you found out like people are getting this crazy about this character?
You know what? It was actually Alex and James who, this is how we sort of got into the whole thing. They were telling me about it because I didn't even realize. I don't even think I posted on the day it came out. I mean, partly because we never know, and no one ever tells us, but also I just didn't think. I was like, let's see how it gets received before I say anything. And Alex and James were the ones to tell me, because they were already sort of very engaged, because they were announced before the game came out. And they started telling me how it's being received. And I was so shocked by it, because I genuinely didn't think it was going to be a big hit. I thought, oh, well, that's a job that I've done, and that's going to, be like one of the many other jobs that don't get attention. And then it just started being this thing, and I started looking through comments and things. Then I posted that it's me. And the response to that was so amazing. I've never had anything like it. I've been doing this for a while. I've had some nice characters, but this has got more response and attention and love than any of the other ones. So it was great. It's so nice and humbling and flattering, and it's great.
That's beautiful.
And you like that people like it, because I went in there and just basically had a lot of fun in the studio. I didn't, it wasn't high stakes. I was just, this will sound cool, this will be nice. I got a lot of freedom from the team. So it's nice that that's got a response, as opposed to some other things that I do. Sometimes, you're very restricted by the whatever the needs are for the game. And this one, I did just get to have a lot of free range, so it was great.
That is beautiful. Yeah, it's I love the as I said, I've watched videos. There's some specific only cutscene, how you first enter, your character
Yeah.
first enters, and there's like lovely a lot of comments. Do you go and get to like watch these videos yourself, or do you stay away from that side?
No, I do. I do. I like to watch them just because, like I said, again, you really only find out what you've done from watching these things. So I do. I mean, Scar doesn't have a ton of lines,
Sure.
and so it was easy to sort of watch the whole thing. Even
Yeah.
though obviously it's divided into the story and the cutscenes, but yeah, it is. It's the only way to sort of know what you've done. I don't do it for every game. I think again because this game hit and people were responding to it, I wanted to know what they were responding to. There are other games that I've done that I just go, oh, okay, I kind of remember what it was, and I don't religiously watch it. But with Scar, I did, and I then rewatched it to try and get some of the lines that sounded cool and quotes that people liked. Yeah, it was just more. I was more interested in it because people were giving me so much interest. So I was like, oh wow, let's go and double check this. This is
Yes.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
It's yeah, it's really cool to see all this reception. And Scar is like, again, it's one of those characters which is, again, a villain character is always cool to see what he does and or she does. And your character is that, playing mind games in a way, has that villainous feel. So when you were recording this, did you take any inspirations from any other media, whether it's movies, TV shows, other characters?
Yeah, I kind of. This is gonna sound so stupid. I've said it before. It was kind of a mix of Samantha from Sex and the City and Hannibal Lecter,
Wow.
and it was kind of a mix of the two. Maybe it doesn't make sense. It's not a literal mix, but in certain ways you can hear it. It's not like every time I went into the booth I was like, let's now put this. But there was that element, and I think the joy of playing a villain and the joy of playing a villain like that is that he is constantly on show and he's constantly trying to play mind games and not to let people read the real him. And you can almost see it. It's like when he talks and goes on a tangent, even though obviously he's very careful and specific about what he says, you can sort of see the other characters going like, huh?
Yeah.
What does this mean? And I think it's a really clever way to keep them on their toes, the other characters, to keep them on their toes. If you're sort of like, is he crazy or is he making sense? Is he insane or is he actually incredibly cool and calm?
Yeah.
So it was like playing with that the whole time. I love that. I love when a character is very aware of what it's doing to another character. It's just such a joy to play, and especially with a villain, you get to just go crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You just what you said about how like he's what he's saying, and you're like, as a character as a player, even when you're listening to what he's saying, you're thinking,
Yeah.
is he actually crazy or is he actually making sense? I actually want to support him as well. It's very different kind of feeling that you get from this character.
It's a little like Thanos, right? Like,
Oh, yes.
you go, he does have a point. He
Yeah.
does have a point there.
True.
Maybe there are too many people. But it's kind of that, and I think it's that sort of game of like, is he actually crazy or is he making sense? Does he know he's unhinged or is he pretending to be unhinged for effect? Like, and I think the joy is never to get an answer for it, because I think sometimes he is very, very, very real in his reactions. There are moments where he loses it, but he never loses it. You know what I mean? Like, he's just being very sincere about what he feels. And of course, I mean, it's a big cliche, but like, if you want to play a villain, you always have to really believe what they want and what they need and what they want to get. So they really believe it, unless they're just,
Yeah.
a populist.
Absolutely. And, with a villain, it creates so much challenges. At least I assume, because I'm not an actor, but I assume that there must be some challenges to it. So how do you go by to make sure that you bring an authentic performance to a character which is a villain?
It's such a fine balance. I mean, with this one, part of the joy is that I got to cross that boundary, I guess, and be a little bit over the top. Obviously, that performance would not work on screen, and it wouldn't work in a very intimate sort of indie game. but in this style, this sort of very sort of big anime style or fantasy style, it sort of works and it fits into the world that he's in. It's a bit different to the other ones. And again, I think in this specific case, it is the fact that he's trying to play mind games all the time that really affects how he sounds. And so it is over the top and it isn't really real, but he's trying to get something. So within that world, it makes sense. And so it's the reality of that world.
Yeah.
Just in case someone watching this goes, does he think that sounds real? I don't think it sounds real, but it's within the reality of that game. It's the right pitch, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why it worked or resonated. That's a little pun there for the game. Resonated with people is because he is so different to the others in that world and in that game. He comes as a disruptor. So he couldn't just be like everyone else and be realistic and just sort of make sense. He has to be a little bit off.
He has to be. And one of the cool things he is absolutely. Yeah. One of the cool things I actually like about the entrance of the character that I remember, and he has a card with him all the time. So he kind of, I guess, in some ways plays tricks. So are you someone who likes cards or something like that as well?
No, I'm terrible at anything that requires any skill.
That's a lie.
I am not good with cards. No, apart from voice. I'm terrible with anything that requires coordination, skill, thought. I'm very competitive though, which doesn't help because I'm not very skilled. I'm more of a, I don't know, have you ever played Heads Up? Such an old
no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's like guessing, and like it's basically using my skills as a performer to win at something, but that's the only place where it's useful. Like charades.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Charades if you're in the UK, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's insane.
But no, I'm terrible with cards. They are very cool though, and they pack a punch.
They do pack a punch.
I really want to get a pack though. I'm gonna look into getting those made.
Ooh.
I think that would be really fun.
Those will be like Scar based, or is like something anything works?
Scar based, like his little ram there.
Yeah.
I mean, we say it's a lamb, but it really is a ram. And a lot of sheep as well. I think there's some zoological questions to be asked there. But yeah, like a proper Scar deck.
That'd be lovely. Oof, yeah,
it would be good.
It would be definitely.
I'd need to set them on fire, but and that could be risky. But we'll see what we can do. The tech is out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, you gotta look for it. You'll find it. It's there. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. If you believe it.
If you believe it, yes. One of the apart from fan arts, I think one of the coolest thing is cosplays, and how people have done some amazing cosplays as Scar. Wow.
Oh my god.
It's so wonderful to see.
I've only seen a couple or maybe 3, and they were unbelievable. There was one that I think I reposted it on Twitter that I just couldn't. I was like, is this real or is this AI? Because it looked so amazing. Yeah. That's, that is like hats off to everyone, or hats on, or a wig in this case. But amazing. That is such art and craft.
Do you think that you would be at one point trying to cosplay as him?
Listen, again, I have no skills. If someone made me a really good, believable Scar outfit, I would 100% do it. I would love to. I just couldn't do it myself. And also, I couldn't choose what version of pant goes on it. I'd get in trouble. Whatever I choose, I'd get in trouble. So it is a minefield over there. But I would 100% want to do it.
Well,
so cool.
Well, it's now getting out there. I think a lot of people will see this and be like, okay, people out there, help
I might
Shai.
have trouble with the contact lenses. Help Shai in every way. I might have issue with the contact lenses. I'm very squeamish about that.
Oh yeah, I don't like lenses at all. I saw some weird things. I'm like, no, dealing with that.
No.
Yeah,
I'm so grateful that for some reason I don't need them. But it is sticking a finger in my eye. I just don't know.
No, not in the books for me.
No, it doesn't trigger anyone. Yeah,
hopefully. You mentioned that you had so many different characters that you got to play. And I was taking a look, and you have played or you've worked in these games like 13 years almost, and done so many
Yeah.
characters. What is something that you have learned now that you wish you knew when you started out?
Oh wow. Definitely how to care for my voice better. Like when you start out, you go, I can do anything, and you
Yeah.
just go in, you don't warm up, you just do it. And especially when, ironically, when you start out is when you do most of your screaming and barking and shouting and war cries and all that. I think my first ever game was Total War 2 Rome, where I just shouted the whole time. And actually, I got to do another Total War recently, Pharaoh, where it was so much better and easier. On the one hand, it's easier because I know how to use my voice better. I warm up and I cool down and all that. On the other hand, I'm older and the voice doesn't last as long when you do those things. So there is that. But yeah, I could really tell the difference. Like I think in the start, I couldn't last for a whole session just
Wow.
because you give it everything. You don't think of the economy of your voice. So that's one thing. Then I think it's, with experience, you just judge yourself less. So you don't double like question every choice that you make. You just go make a choice, hope they like it. You don't feel like in the beginning you just feel like a fraud the whole time. You go like, oh, they're gonna find out I can't do this job. I had quite a traumatic second experience. But we can get to that later. But you feel like a fraud the whole time, so you question everything you do, which leads you not to always commit to a good choice, not make interesting choices. And then I think when you just get more experience and you get more, you believe in yourself a little bit more, you go, I can just offer this out, no one's going to think I'm terrible, they're just going to maybe suggest that I do a different thing.
Mm.
um
Wow.
yeah, I think that's a difference. But yeah, and I think also to know but that's more generally as an actor. I think to know that there are things that you're really good at and there are things that you're not as good as other people at, and it's okay because you can be great at the things that you're good at as opposed to trying to be sort of average in everything.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's quite a good sort of switch to do in your brain.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good switch to do in your brain. You're right. Yeah. It's something that even I try to switch, and sometimes
Yeah,
switches back. So I'm like, how can I switch it back on again?
yeah.
So it is hard to
It's the
sometimes do that.
USP, right? Like, what's your unique selling point? What do you do that other people can't? Like, as opposed to trying to do what other people can and you maybe aren't so good at.
Mm.
Focus on the things that you're good at and other people can't do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's so cool. And if you go back in time a little bit more, and you graduated from London Academy of Music and dramatic arts,
Yeah,
and you started
Lambda.
your Lambda, you started your
Yeah.
journey from there. What were those initial struggles like at the time when you just kind of like went out and trying to get roles?
Um, Again, it's kind of that. I think in the beginning, there's two things that happen at the same time. Everyone expects you to do everything, which is what we just discussed. Like, you're supposed to be good at everything. You're supposed
Yeah.
to be a Hamlet as well as a Puck, as well as if we're learning Shakespeare, or, just be able to do everything. And so you keep failing at a lot of things because you don't really know what you're meant to be doing. On the other hand, you get those opportunities to try a lot of different things. So it is quite a cool experience because I think when you graduate from drama school or when you're starting out, if you're lucky enough to be seen by people, then it is you get a lot of benefit of the doubt, like because you're new and fresh out of like, an esteemed drama school,
Yeah.
people give you more chances than they would give you as a more sort of established actor, even because there's sort of a grace when you graduate from drama school, so you're allowed to try more things. Whereas later on you sort of get defined by either what you've done or what you look like, or things like that. So yeah, it's a weird old business. But obviously I was doing a lot more theater to start with. I think when you graduate from drama school, you do think that everything has to be that sort of high stakes theater, Shakespeare, West End in the case of London. Yeah, all of those things you really have. It's like you're supposed to do a lot of things, and then the joy of sort of moving on with your career, discovering games, for example, and animation and other forms of voiceover, as you go, wait, I can do all these other things too. I don't have to be stuck to one thing. And don't get me wrong, I love theater. I'd love to do more theater. Um, but it's funny how things sort of lead you. Whereas when you finish drama school, you think it has to be this and then that, and if I do this play, then I get that TV show, then that leads to a film, then I do another play. You don't think outside of that sort of norm. And I think nowadays we're a lot more broad. You suddenly realize that actually games exist, or animation, or other voiceover types, and yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And again, as I mentioned before, like so many people are now getting into this acting side of things, trying to learn acting, trying to get a drama school, and starting the initial step, and doing everything. What is something that you would like to say to anybody who, let's say, just went out of drama school? What do you like to say to them to what they should be doing, maybe focusing on, rather than focusing on anything
In
else?
terms of gaming, or in terms of just advice to a young actor?
Advice to a young actor can work out, yeah.
I think all of that are the things. I mean, I don't know who I am to give any advice to anyone, but I think it's what I said before. I'm repeating myself a little bit, which is boring, but like to know your strengths, and they're not a deficiency, they're an advantage. If you're good at certain things, be great at those things rather than try and be a little bit good at everything.
Yeah.
And it's not to say everyone should, if they want to, try and achieve or diversify their career and their acting and their skills, whatever. But it's for your soul, it's good to know that you're good at something, so you have that faith, and you try and impress people with the things that you are good at. I think I completely rambled there, but it does make sense somewhere.
Makes sense.
Between the lines. There's something there.
It all makes sense. So yeah.
But also, just I think don't be too hard. Don't be too hard on yourself. Nothing is final. Everything is. If you fail at one audition, it doesn't mean anything. The thing you do know when you get more experience is that, I mean, we get like 95% no, and then occasional yeses, and they're very great and lucky. But all those no's, apart from a few, are really nothing to do with you or your abilities or your talent. It's always like, oh, there's someone else that looks like you. There's someone else that you're taller than. There's someone else with your hair color. We don't want them to be mixed up. If it's in voice, there's someone else that sounds like you. It's a little bit too much like another character. All these things that are just people building puzzles, and maybe you're just not the right part, but you're a great part for something else. So I think that's something that we should always bear in mind. I still remind myself that, because it is hard to get auditions and castings. There's such a cruel process, as opposed to other jobs where there's a bit more of a meritocracy, where if you were good at something, then you will naturally progress to the next best thing, and the next and the next. And in our job, it's very much like this, and you're only as good as the last job you've done. But even then, like, that doesn't mean anything. You have to be right for the next thing. And it's always, even despite, I'm going to contradict myself, it's always a reflection of you, but it's not a reflection of your talent, but it's a reflection of, oh, you were too tall. Oh, you were too old. Oh, you were too young. Oh, you're too good looking. You're not good looking enough. Like, it's always very personal, whatever it is. And you just have to learn to sort of separate it from your own worth and your own value. But that's hard. I mean, we all struggle with it.
True. Wow. Yeah, that is something hard to go by. And you have learned so much from your experience over the years. I'm curious about, when you think back, what do you think about how Shai was back then and how Shai is right now?
I'm just a lot more calm and cool. No, I'm not cool. Wait, hold on. I'm
What
never
are you
cool.
talking about?
I'm just more at ease with it all. I have more confidence in the things that I know I'm good at. So I feel less of a need to. I always have a need to prove myself, because I always want to do the best job that I can do. But I'm not. I don't feel like a fraud all the time, I guess is the point. So I think that's a real big difference. And also, again, just breaking out of those rules and blinkers of what you're supposed to do and what you should do, and just allowing yourself. Look, like voiceover, I never thought I'd do a lot of voiceover, but in a way, my favorite film of all time, or my favorite film when I was younger, was Aladdin, and it was because of Robin Williams and the genie,
Yes.
and that just made me want to do voices and like do a million different impressions or voices, characters. Um, but and that sort of got me wanting to do that and other things. Made me want to do this, and then you go to drama school and learn about Shakespeare and Strasbourg and Chekhov and all these things, and you forget that actually what you really wanted to do when you were a kid was to make funny voices. And now that I'm back to doing it, it's like, oh, I never saw it panning out this way, but I'm back to doing what I always really, really wanted. I don't even know how I went on this thought tangent, but I think it made sense to what you asked. Yeah.
It's lovely. I love it. I love that you have that connection with Aladdin, because a lot of people have that connection with Aladdin, including myself. Like, it's just something that, and I think it's like one of those movies where you immediately go, oh, that's so cool to make different voices and play these different unique characters that you would not see in movies. So it's just lovely to have that.
And that is part of like the again, thinking about a USP. I'm not making it about myself, but it really isn't. It's that is like, oh, one actor that can do this and that and this voice and that voice and this character and funny and serious and that's a skill. Like, I love that, and I feel like I am better at that, whereas there's other actors who are so good at playing just heartfelt and emotion and serious, and that's an amazing skill. But we have different skills. So I think if you played like all the characters I've done, you probably wouldn't know that they were the same actor.
Yeah.
But I'd love to do a lot of the things that other amazing. I won't name them just in case it sounds like it's a negative, even though it's such a positive. Like they do sort of a very similar voice all the time, but it's so truthful and it's so impactful and it's so strong. It's just different skills, and we need to have all of us in the industry to create this world.
Yeah.
Again, I have no idea how I went on this tangent, but it happened. It happened.
It happened here.
Yeah.
I love that. No, this is really cool. I love listening to more of these. But you mentioned like you always wanted to do voices, Aladdin being the thing. How did you discover video games, and when did you find out that, okay, something is there?
Yeah, I didn't. It just happened. I think voiceover in general becomes a thing that you do while you audition. I did a lot of promos to start with. I always was aware that I have like a nice sort of, my speaking voice is a nice sort of bassy, rich tone, whatever, because people reacted to it. So you go, okay, well, I should try that as a source of income while I'm auditioning for those big theater jobs, for that Shakespeare, for that Chekhov. You get a voiceover agent. You start doing, I don't know, I think my first job was maybe like a promo for a Nickelodeon show. And you just do that, and then suddenly your agent goes, hey, they're casting this video game. Do you want to go up for it? You go, of course I want to go up for it. I want to do everything. And then that happens. And then you start, and the ball rolls, and it happens. I never set out. And again, it's so ironic because all I ever wanted to do was crazy voices and funny stuff. So the fact that you end up doing the thing that you always secretly wanted to do is, well, stupid, because I should have had a plan. But yeah, you just end up doing it. And I guess because it's in you, that love for it, you're inherently a little bit better at it. And you just start, and it happens.
Yeah. Oh, so lovely.
Yeah, so it was that.
So lovely that you get to be part of so many games and continue to do so, because Scar is obviously one of the villains that you played, but another villain that you played as well, which came out earlier this year, was in Prince of Persia, Lost Crown. You played Menolias. So it's a great scene. I love that character, and ended in a different way than I thought it would. So it was, I just really loved how it was. So, and you mentioned that you are, or you still are probably a fan of Prince of Persia from the original game.
Well, yeah. So Menolias, I mean, is he a villain? I mean, he's less of a villain than Scar is. He's just, he has a strong belief.
Yes, he has a strong belief.
But it's another one of those stupid, when you look back on it, kind of, oh, that's a cool story. Prince of Persia was probably my favorite game when I was a teenager.
Wow.
The original one with the strangely blonde Persian prince. I loved it. I used to play it all the time. It was my favorite game. Um, and so then to get to be a voice in that franchise was just like it's not a dream come true because I didn't actively think about it my whole life, but it's so cool. It's like it just touches immediately on those like little fibers of your childhood. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
I loved being part of that franchise, and I love that. I loved that character. I love this game. I think it looks amazing. I think it's fun.
Oof,
I don't
yeah.
know what is it like to play. You tell me.
It's really good. It's really fun. I'm horrible at it as usual. So
Yeah.
I could not even go to that stage because I just died.
Sure.
So I just
Okay.
never saw. I never even got to saw it because I think before that you have like a boss that I just can't kill.
Yeah.
So I was
Oh,
going
wow.
through and just I saw the cutscenes and all that and I was like wow
No,
and
no, that's cool. I
saw the
mean,
fight.
same here. Same here. I only saw the cutscenes. Yeah, but he was really fun to play. Again, it's nice. I mean, could it be more different than Scar? Like,
Yeah.
just in terms, not bigging myself up, and just in the way that, like, as an experience as an actor, like, to be able to do that very sort of serious, somber, very truthful and earnest, tough warrior, as opposed to a sort of flimsy character, is just great. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I was thinking whether I should say who I based it on, but I
Oh.
haven't asked them. So it was a friend who is a colleague, and I couldn't tell. I had to sound British for it. I was like, what could anchor me? What could be that voice? And so I ended up doing this friend uh,
Wow.
who is also a voice actor. So yeah, it was based on him. So I texted him during the session saying, just so you know, I'm doing your voice. I'm trying at least. Yeah.
Wow.
So sometimes that's all the inspiration you need, just remembering a friend's voice and then doing that.
Yeah, whatever works, it goes out there. I mean, and it's so
Whatever
cool.
works.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I love that character and the way he came in. He had that belief about what he wants to do and what he needs to do, and then obviously, good for me that I didn't get to go into that fight because it was insanely hard. As I was seeing the gameplay,
Yeah,
I was
he's
like,
hard, I heard.
yeah, it's very hard. My
Yeah.
eyes were blown out. I don't think so. I can last for years playing that boss. I don't think so. Yeah, it was a hard one. But just seeing the cutscenes and how
Yeah.
it ends and how it leads forward, it was kind of like also touching at the same time. And I'm a sucker for these dramatic moments. So I just love it. Just grabs me
Yeah.
immediately. So I loved everything about it.
And it is, obviously, we won't say how it ends, but
Mhm.
you really do get a sense that he really genuinely believes what he says. You know, he's willing to go all the way with it. He
Yeah.
really believes the thing, maybe for the wrong reasons, but he really believes it.
That's true. Another, and again, you have so many cool games. And one of the coolest games that came out last year, which is also getting released on PC this year, is Final Fantasy 16. And you played Lubor there, and it was such a interesting.
did.
Yes, it was an interesting character.
Yeah.
How unique was that experience like to be in a game so big as Final Fantasy?
Yeah, you know, it was just like any other thing, and actually, because we go into the studio, we rarely ever know the scope of anything or what's happening in the rest of the game. And thank God for that. I could never hold all of that in my head. I mean, it's the same with Wuthering Waves. I don't really know everything that happens in every bit of the game. I just sort of know the strands of my story. But in that case, obviously he's part of a side quest, so I didn't have to know everything. And he's very much giving Clive it's a lot of like back and forth between him and Clive and the events of what happens in that environment.
Yeah.
So thankfully I didn't have to know a lot, but I was very fortunate to work with the two amazing guys from a company called Schlock, Morgan and Ollie, who I've worked with before. I worked with them on Dragon Quest 11, and they had everything in their head. I didn't have to think about anything. I could ask them anything about, context, and they would just have all the information and they would steer me in the right direction. And that's oftentimes they were a bit of a mix because obviously, they are performance directors, but they also wrote the script, the English version. And we really rely on performance directors and sometimes the devs on the line or the director of the whole game on the line, because they have the full context, whereas we usually come for our strand. You know, I mean, I'm saying the obvious, as opposed to a film, which is, you know, A to B in 2 hours. A game is so naughty and like strandy, and like it's impossible to have all of that in your brain.
Yeah.
I mean, a script for a game is
Insanely.
thousands of pages of Excel. Yeah. So it's so good to have good people that have that in their head, and just tell you what you need to know, and no more and no less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is weird sometimes. And again, same Lubor as well. It's only in watching it after that you go, oh, I see. Because very rarely do you see anything from the game or have that scope, and then it all falls into place when you watch it afterwards.
Yeah, I've known that obviously as you guys, you don't get to see anything, and even when the game comes out, sometimes you don't know if you can announce it. Like there's so much in there, and then you get to see later on when people are posting about it, talking about it, and then you finally get to realize how the scene actually even looks like. So it's like a
100%.
interesting thing to see, because I think a lot of people who don't know, obviously they might feel like, okay, they definitely have seen the scenes and they must have something to give feedback on, and like that's not how it works. So it's a very interesting process.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it's not a big deal, but sometimes actors get criticized in games and for certain things in performances, and you know, we want to take credit for when it's good, but also but maybe not take credit when it's bad. But oftentimes I would say when it's not that good, it's oftentimes not the actor's fault, in the sense that, you know, we really are bound to what we're told or direct, because it's impossible to make sort of informed, deep choices about stuff that you don't know. So you sort of hazard a guess. Oftentimes the voice gets set in an audition where you really have no information, and then you go into the booth and they say, yeah, we like the voice that you did in your tape, just do that. But then you realize what the thing is, and you go, oh, if I could choose again, I wouldn't do that voice. But that's what they want, and we're not creating the game, we're just serving a purpose. And again, don't get me wrong, some people are better at it than others. There's some people that go, what would you like it to sound? You know, if they're not married to that initial choice, it's great. Sometimes you change a little bit during. I think with Scar, I might have changed somewhere after I started, and then we went back and sort of tweaked the beginning a little bit. But yeah, I lost my train of thought yet again for the 17th time this interview. But yeah, it's often we often, you know, we're really kind of at the mercy of other people oftentimes. So
yeah,
if ever you see a performance that you go, what's this? It's kind of a feel for that actor, because often it wouldn't be their choice.
True. Yeah.
But when it's great, it's all us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like it's how it's been given to you, and that's how you have to do it. Like, you know, you cannot really change much, because that's how the idea. Sometimes you can change, but sometimes you can't. So when you can't, there's nothing you can do about it, and you have those limitations.
Yeah, and no one ever sets out to do a bad job. Everyone always wants to do the best job that they can, and sometimes it just doesn't work because you don't have all the information, because things change. You know, I've voiced a character in a game that had a certain animation to start with, and I gave it a voice, but then later on in the rendering or whatever, they completely changed the character. So it went from a very old gentleman to a fairly young, sort of fit rugby-like guy, but the voice didn't change. So, you know, you watch that and you go, why would he make that choice for that look? But
yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah.
It just happens, and it's okay, and it's part of the thing. It's, you know,
it is what it is.
So many things change in that big mix of making a game.
Yeah, it is how it's so. But you know, there's so many cool games, and one of the cool games that I played, like even a new sequel is coming out of that, and that is Chicken Police, which is like so cool. And it's the next game is Into the Hive is coming out. You would also in Painted Red, and you played Marty McChicken. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's so cool to like I played the demo. It's so cool to see that you know in the demo you start off drunk, and it was like the great opening.
Yeah.
So
thank you. I had so much fun.
Oh man,
I love those guys. They are so. You know how I said about sometimes you go in, you don't know anything, no one tells you anything, you never know. Like these guys are so good. The Wild Gentlemen,
Yeah.
they're so good. They're a little indie studio. They're so talented. And they are so up for sharing anything. They're not playing hard to get. You know, they sort of, I mean, if you look at their socials, the whole thing is out there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it makes the experience of playing the game any worse because you know a lot of things in advance. And so, yeah, they were really generous. They let me do a lot of things. They let me get away with a lot of things, like in a good way. They were very open about the whole process. It was just so fun. Like it doesn't take itself seriously in any way, but it's still really good. I mean, like everyone that's played it is so impressed by it. So
Yes.
I love those guys. I really, yeah, I really have a soft spot for that game. And I recommend that everyone go and play it because it's really fun.
Yes, it is really fun. It's a perfect
Yeah.
noir game that never expected there will be chickens and animals in it, and now I believe that you
Yeah.
can write in your resume that you get to play chicken. So that's
100%.
yes,
I
yeah.
also play a horse in that game, you know?
Yeah, you
It's a
do.
very little known fact. I also play a horse in that game. So, you know, really
Endless, wow.
endless amount of animals that I can play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool that you get to expand your resume with animals and get to give a
That's
voice
it.
to them. That's what you want
That's
to
it.
do. Yeah, that's it.
There's
That's
nothing I can't do. Yeah, but there's such amazing actors in that game, and
Yeah.
Devorah,
Deborah.
that you had on your podcast. She plays Monica in it,
Yes.
and it's such amazing. Like you know, and again, blowing up now with Baldur's Gate, and but we also have our little game that we love. It's great. I love it.
It's great. Do you know what kind of crimes chickens can solve?
Any crime.
Any
Obviously,
crime.
they are the best detectives in all of Clawville, so they can solve any crime. And soon they will have to try and solve another crime.
Yes.
And we'll see.
We'll
But
see about
they are on the verge of useless. I mean, Marty is on the verge of useless, but somehow gets the job done,
Somehow.
which is great.
I love it. I love this.
Yeah.
I'm so waiting for the game. But how do you for a character like this? How do you prepare to take on the role of Marty, a chicken, but he has a voice which is like a normal. But like how do you keep your mind at ease to make sure that okay, it is more authentic to what is needed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, and it sounds completely stupid and insane, the fact that he's a chicken is just completely irrelevant,
Yes.
except that there are a lot of cluck puns and feather puns. But no, you just treat it like he's a young sort of rogue detective that just sort of doesn't play by the rules,
Yeah.
and that's kind of it. You don't ever think we never thought chicken or not chicken. I think there's some of the smaller characters that are more animal tending, but yeah, it never was a factor, the fact that he's a chicken. And there are so many other different animals.
Yeah.
I think definitely the horse did sound like a horse a little bit. I did play another horse somewhere else. I just remember that. But yeah, you never think about that. You just go, okay, what's the character? And then it ended up sounding a bit more like maybe a noir version of me. But he's like a wisecracker.
Yeah.
He doesn't take himself too seriously. He's a bit of a dude. Yeah. It's not. It wasn't tons of prep for that. You just kind of, the words are there, the image is there, the leather jacket, the gun. Boom, you know what to do.
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
I'm not a big prep guy. I'm kind of go a lot more by instinct, if I'm honest.
And
Unless I'm
that's-
stuck.
And that works out so well. I feel like even your instinct and it just goes
For
well.
me.
Great. Yeah. I
Yeah, I
love
don't
it.
know if it's laziness or what, but yeah, it's
I don't think
it
so.
works for me. Some people like to prepare and sort of think, and I think that's actually amazing. Like if I had a bit more of that kind of discipline, I think it would be interesting. I think I always say I should maybe look into those things more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I work hard for the characters I have to play.
Of course.
But yeah, oftentimes I go, I feel like it should sound like this, and then hopefully it clicks. And then you start going, okay, what's he trying to achieve there? What's the situation? What's the story? And then obviously you put a lot of thought into it. But yeah, it feels like sometimes I'm very good. If I see a visual, I feel like it should sound like this.
Yeah.
You see an image sorry, like a moving image, like a video of the character, even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I work a lot by instinct.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I always have heard that, seeing any visuals of any kind can help develop this kind of
100%.
image and then also voice immediately in some ways. And yeah, that's really cool. And it's so many games, so many characters, so many acting choices. And we recently saw that the I don't know if you want to say anything about it, but Amazon CEO said that video games don't really have acting and it was supporting AIs. And a lot of people like, what is he saying? So what do you have to
I
say
don't
on
know.
that?
I don't know where this career has come from. There's no acting in games. But hey, listen. Far be it from me to criticize Amazon CEO. I still would love to do their games. I'm not joking. I don't know. Obviously, I think the reason people connect to games more and more and increasingly so in the last few years is because of performances and because of listen, the voices are like the tiny little icing on top of most games. There's teams of unbelievable artists that work for years and years and years and years to develop these things. So, really, us actors are a very small part. But oftentimes we can be the part that people connect to. And it's partly we want also to, sometimes you have to sort of bring the devs around and the teams around to understanding that that's how people perceive it sometimes. Because I think, and rightly so, they're very focused on the work that they do on the technical side, the storytelling side, everything else. And the acting sort of is a sort of the last stage in a way of something that's so huge already. So there is also that. It's like, a car is not the color coat outside of it, but sometimes the color of the car is why people buy it. Wow, I just love that.
That was beautiful.
I'll write that down. Anyway, obviously there's incredible acting in games, and obviously a lot of people connect to games because of that. A lot of people connect to games for other reasons, but it is a big part of the industry, and so
Definitely.
we should appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a weird sentence to start off from that guy, but hey, at least people who play games, they know that it is very much important,
yeah.
So
Exactly, and I hope, and obviously let's have a shout out for our friends over in America, SAG AFTRA, who are striking just because of that. And us here in the UK, we don't have that ability. We can't strike. So we all, we're so happy that those guys are doing the work for us. And it's so important because it's really easy to take these things for granted and go, oh well, we could just replace actors with essentially robots. But I think the community, and I think the people playing at home or wherever they choose to play appreciate the difference. And I think we don't want to get to a world where everything is synthetic. We want that real emotion. We want those real human experiences that create these voices, even if they're stupid chicken voices or if they're Ben Starr as Clive in Final Fantasy 16. We want these beautiful heartfelt performances and not something that's synthetic. I don't think that's ever going to work. I hope.
Definitely never gonna work. And I hope so too, that it strikes results in a positive way, because it is needed. It is definitely needed to especially have some authenticity in performances, which is only possible with the human beings and not some programmed dude being
100%. And I think we all have a right to our likeness. No one should be cloned without their consent.
Exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't actually clone a person, so I don't see the difference. I've heard some horror stories, and I know some of my colleagues that are just out there on websites being made to say whatever, and those are like niche stories. Obviously, that's not the big problem with artificially generated voices. But anyway, it's a big topic.
It is a big topic. Well, we have some questions from fans. Are you good to go with answering some of those?
Yes.
All right. So let's start with the first question being from Kill Cal by the name. They ask, what was your take on Scar's character when you first heard about him?
Ooh, I think we sort of covered it earlier.
Yeah.
It was that, when I got the image of him, which is one of the rare occasions where you do get an image when you audition, it was a lot more maniacal And so I think my initial take was a lot more maniacal than when I came to understand him later. And then when it got to actually recording it, it was just that element that I said about performance and about trying to keep you on your toes, trying to keep you guessing all the time. Hey, is he friendly? Is he on my side? Or maybe he's not, that constant like thing where you're not sure what this guy is doing, but you better be careful. You better be on your toes. So that's kind of, I think we covered that.
True. Blossoming Potential asks, do you strongly relate to Scar or do you feel differently personality-wise?
I hope I'm different personality-wise. I'm definitely not confrontational. I don't even think I'm as intelligent as Scar. I think he's got a big old master plan and he knows how to get what he wants. Whereas I just get by. So yeah, no, I don't feel like we're anything alike. I also don't take myself very seriously, but actually maybe he doesn't take himself very seriously. He takes things very seriously, but he doesn't take himself very seriously.
True.
So maybe that's where we're the same.
Yeah, that's where you guys can relate.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And also a lot of care for our hair.
Yes,
maybe another point. Yeah,
that's another point
for sure.
The username Bitten by a Kitten. What songs?
Oh, nice.
What songs does Scar play on that Walkman in his chest?
There's definitively a Walkman. I did ask one time on Twitter what people think that thing was there. So yeah, it's interesting to know another opinion. But I like the Walkman. It's also very 80s. Yes. I think it's a mix of some kind of death metal, rock, kind of like, it's got to be some kind of severe rock.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
And an occasional Celine Dion in the shuffle. just so he doesn't go all out.
Oh yeah, that's true. If that is actually a Walkman, and then if there's some way, I don't know how, but like some way there's a way that they can just play something, or he can play something. There you go. Those.
And suddenly, like the headphones come out, and then you can hear it. Those terrible. But yeah, or maybe it's like all self-empowerment, like you can do this, or like so calming at ASMR. It could be that. It could be self-empowerment stuff.
Who knows?
Or learning another language. But yeah, anyway.
Anything can be possible. Burner Ahoy asks, are you aware of just... Ahoy! Are you aware of just how thirsty people are for Scar, thanks to your voice acting?
Yes. I don't think it's thanks to my voice acting, but thank you for saying that. Ahoy. I'm very aware of how thirsty people are. We've discussed it, and some of them are very thirsty. I'm aware. I don't think it's because of me, but I think he's, he presents himself very well. He's a good-looking guy. He's very sexy. There is something sexy about that thing where you don't quite know what they're thinking. You don't know how to pin them down. He's that. It's really cool. He keeps his literal cards close to his chest, and you don't know what it is, and I think that is very sexy. He's very aware of his power, and he sort of uses it in small amounts or big when he needs to. That makes no sense, but you know what I mean.
I mean, that makes perfect sense, and I feel like your voice does count into that, because there's certain ways you deliver the lines that even if you're attentive, you want to drive even more attention, and all of a sudden everything blurs out and except him. So it's that moment that happens, and it's I'll say it because of you.
Sure. So I'll take it. Fine.
Hell yes. Knocked as bad has a question. How do you come up with the voice of Venigni in Lies of P?
Yes.
Such an interesting voice.
Thank you. I mean, in a way, that was a very last minute job. And I think the devs were playing around with different things. And you'll notice, obviously, the whole thing is set in a sort of form of Italy, but no one else sounds Italian. And I think they wanted that one character to sound Italian. And it may have been a sort of last minute decision, but really cool, and it sort of really fits him. Um, and he is, again, maybe I have a tendency, or maybe I see all the characters as that, but like he is also someone who is very performative and very much on display.
Yeah.
And he's a salesman, and he's constantly like, I think the idea originally was like he's a real salesman. He really almost pitches everything as a sale, but obviously has a good heart. And that, that does create, he's a socialite. He's well, not an aristocrat because he's worked hard for it, but he is like a man of society. So there's something very grand about it. There's something very sort of effervescence, very what's the word? I'm looking for a word and it's not coming to me, but something like that.
Yeah.
And then throw on an Italian accent on top of it. And again, like always with games, there's always that sort of fine line to tread between doing an accent that's really authentic or doing an accent that can be understood by most audiences. So, whatever was a right interpretation of an Italian accent, you have to sort of then change it a little bit so that people can actually understand. Not to say that people can't understand when Italian people speak, but what we know as an Italian accent, just to make it understandable for the narrative and for lots of different ears, because not everyone is attuned to all accents. So it's sort of an amalgamation of things. But I think the gist was they wanted him to sound Italian, and it really fit his sort of style and his language. He's very flowery, and it was great. He's a great character. That game is just stunning. So happy that it did so well. I thought that team was cool. It was great.
It's a stunning game. Another one of those games that I can't play because I'll die all the time.
No, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah, apparently it's really hard. That's
really
what
hard.
I heard.
I think I'm a gamer. I just can't play games. But
Sure. Hey, listen, that's what Solitaire is for.
yeah, that's what Solitaire is for. Yes, exactly.
Solitaire with Scars cards. That's the thing to do.
Yes.
Write that down, Abby.
You
That
got
could
it.
be our big break.
Yes, that's the big break. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, I hope that answers that Venigni question. We love Venigni. Thank you for asking that.
Hell yes. It's Arya has a question about what do you enjoy the most about being the voice of Scars so far?
I think it would be. I mean, I enjoyed doing it in the studio because I love my job. I love being in the studio and doing voices. But like we said earlier, it's interacting with the community and the people who are really passionate about the game. That's been great. It's just such like love for that character, for that game in general. The art, like we said, just how people perceive him. That's been the real joy, like to really get to share these things with the community. That's been the best thing. Often, when we finish the job, the actual job is to get into the studio and do voices. The rest of it is just sort of the fun. So that's been great because, my job was done when I finished doing the recording. But the life that it has afterwards is amazing. I play this character called Sylvando in Dragon Quest.
Yes.
I don't have him nearby.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
I know. I have a figure. So, but that's from 2017, and still people love him and engage with him, and that's such a joy. Like, it's such a privilege to have something like that. So it's that's the thing. The job of that was done years and years ago, but it's still you still get to share it with people.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a bit like cliche, but it's really true.
I mean, you gotta say that Sylvando is a character that I have seen a lot of people say it. I believe it is one of the best characters in that game because he is so enjoyable when he is on the screen. Like it's somehow like grabs the attention immediately what he's doing. And even though there's I think a story of him where it's kind of like starts off kind of strong, sad in a way, but you still get that attention from him, and it's just so well done, and you did such a great job with, and it's just I'm relaxed, I'm having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Again, that's the team Schlock and Ollie from Schlock did that with me, or I did that with him. Let's get the proportions right. But again, and I think it's a through line. It's Venigni, it's Scar. They're a little bit over the top. They're a little bit flowery, but there's a lot. But that element of performance where his heart is one thing, but he has all these defenses or all these ways to reach people through a way of speaking or a performance style that maybe, gets you in where maybe you would have sort of gone, no, I don't think so. But he manages to get you in through this performance. And then you get to the real heart of it, which is maybe different to what you'd think. So yeah, he's very special. I think he's always going to be my goat. Whereas Scar loves lambs, Sylvando is the goat.
Yes, I love the character, and it's so cool that people still get to talk about him, and there's still people put up content about him, and like it's amazing. So
I do sometimes feel like I'm cheating on him with Scar, where Scar gets all the attention now, but Sylvando's the OG.
Hey, he'll come around.
But yeah, there's place for everyone.
It's place for everyone. May ask a question. Which part of Scar do you like the most? His design, his personality, or anything in general?
Wow. All of it. I think obviously the personality is where I'd connect to most. I do think he looks really cool.
Yes.
I think that long coat, all the flappy bits, the hair. Oh, I love the hair. And the eyes. But it is the personality, it's that thing that I've said a million times, that what does he actually mean? Yeah. What does he actually think? I really want to get into his mind. I love that. And the fact that I can take that and go up there with it and go really close and intimate. Like I love that. It's a joy to play.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a joy to watch and play as well, and to see all that scene.
Thank you.
Just grabs attention. Last question from Star comes in. What do you think Scar was like as a kid?
Do you know what? I think he actually was the opposite of what he is now. I think he might have been the quiet kid on the side that sort of observes, and maybe the one that gets told off all the time and constantly gets misunderstood. But I mean, I also think there's a part in the game that we get to explore a story that he tells.
Yeah.
And whether that's him or not him, I really believe that that's somehow linked to his past. I'm really saying that because I think it, not because it's lore or truth or, but yeah, I think he was misunderstood a lot, and that made him think of the world a little bit differently and not like part of the herd, which made him believe all the things that he believes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the short answer is I think he was probably quiet and sort of observant and maybe not that popular.
Absolutely, yes.
Which leads to all the greatness in the world.
It does.
Or in his case, great villainy, but
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
I must say
Thanos again. Yeah, go on.
I have to say that thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about everything.
Pleasure.
About all these characters, lovely characters, and you get to play more. And I know there must be more in the works coming out soon. Obviously can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Beautiful NDAs
Sure.
signed. So
yeah. I'd love to say
to
more. I think when this comes out, you can look at something on my feed.
Yes.
Maybe if I'm allowed to say it, but it's not going to be that special.
Come on. Has to be.
No, I mean, listen, it's just I did some small things for something. But yeah.
Well, regardless, I'm looking forward to everything that's coming out next for you, for any of the games.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I every character that you have done so far has been amazing and unique on its own, and people love it, especially Scar, now that he's taken attention. Sylvando will return, but it's,
He will.
He will.
Let's make it happen.
But yeah,
no, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for taking the interest. Thank you for everyone that asked questions.
Yes.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a real blast. Thank you.